Welcome to the Moonflower Show, a podcast about the big questions in life. Just like a moonflower opens at night, we invite you to come in, stay for the evening, and let your thoughts bloom with us. If you like philosophical, heart-to-heart conversations, you are in the right place. I'm Winter.
And I'm Colin, and we're so glad you're here. Please come in and grab a seat.
Today, we are going to be talking about the past year in review. The Moonflower Show is now officially 1 year old as of exactly today, May 25th, 2021, which is the day that we're uploading this. Not the day we're recording. It's a couple days in the past for us over here. So we're going to be talking about how we created this podcast and our lives over the past year. But first, before we dive in, we have two very special announcements. One, our Patreon is now officially set up and ready to rock. We sort of set up a bare bones Patreon a couple months ago, but as of today, there are benefits and multiple levels to choose from, and they have cute names, and we are super excited about it. For those of you who may not know what Patreon is, it's a platform for creators that allows fans to financially support the show in exchange for special perks or benefits. As for the Moonflower Show, there are 3 contribution levels right now.
And we're here to tell you all about them. The lowest level of contribution is $2 a month, which gets you a free Moonflower Show sticker, a special shout-out on our next episode that after the one that you start contributing on, a handwritten thank you card from us, access to our live Q&A sessions, which we are now hosting every other month, and, of course, exclusive access to Winter's curated Nightcore playlist. That's right, this is not a drill. If you're an OG Moonflower, you will hopefully appreciate that we really did mean it when we said that we ever set up a Patreon. We would be offering exclusive access to Winter's Nightcore playlist as a perk. We would never, ever joke about such a serious matter.
No, never. Absolutely not. We may have sounded like we were joking, but it was serious.
No, it's pretty good.
Yes.
I'm not even like a Nightcore guy myself, but it's pretty good.
Yes, it's curated, folks, okay?
Yeah, this is the value you're getting. It's curated.
Curated $2 a month Nightcore playlist. So that's the first level. The middle contribution level is $5 a month, which will get you everything from the lowest level plus 10% off our merch on Spring, formerly Teespring, a personalized pin to certify that you are an official Moonflower, and automatic entry into our bi-weekly merch giveaways. Ooh. Every other week, Colin and I are going to pick something from our store, or we are going to make something by hand. We'll see how that goes. Either way, we are going to give it away as a part of a giveaway every other week. And if you are in this middle contribution level, you will be automatically entered into that giveaway. However, we are not going to start doing those giveaways until we get 20 supporters on Patreon.
Correct.
We are starting to see a little support, but not that much.
Yeah, so we will let you guys know when we reach that point, when we are at 20 supporters on Patreon, and when we're going to begin the giveaways. But we're not there yet.
But we will be.
At the rate we're going, I think we will be.
Yes.
In due time.
Absolutely.
At $10 a month, you get everything from the lower tiers, and surprise, you're now our pen pals, and we are your pen pals. We will start by writing you a joint letter in which Winter and I take turns writing one word at a time.
We have prototyped this.
We've done this with a couple of our friends. They always get a kick out of it. In other words, you should expect utter chaos. And from that point forward, you're welcome to write back to us. We will continue to write you back each time you answer our letters. Of course, maximum once per month. We have to put at least a bit of a cap on it. But yeah, we can just be pen pals. So if you like us that much, $10 a month is all it takes.
Yeah. The cost of our friendship is $10 a month. Just kidding. That sounds so horrible.
It is. It's horrible.
I like this phrasing better. $10 a month. Surprise, we're your pen pals now.
Yeah. So, that was happening? I didn't even realize. Oh, yeah, we're pen pals.
Yeah, we're pen pals, you and me.
Gotta get your pen and paper ready.
Anyway, if that sounds good to you, if any of that sounds good to you, you should definitely check us out on patreon.com/moonflowershow. Once we get 20 supporters on Patreon, we will start doing those bi-weekly merch giveaways. And I will be making custom Moonflower friendship bracelets for the first 20 people who sign up for our Patreon.
Yes.
So if you do this, you'll be one of 20 people in the world with those friendship bracelets.
Yeah.
So if you're on the fence about boarding the Patreon train, consider this the choo-choo. Was that good? Did I market it?
I don't think so. Something tells me that's not gonna stick.
Let us know in the comments.
Oh my goodness. So we have another big announcement, and our second big announcement, spoiler alert, we have Moonflower merch available on Spring. There will be a link to our Spring, formerly known as Teespring, in the episode description this time around. We have sweatshirts and shirts with our logo. We're also trying to make at least one item for every, and I mean every, inside joke that we've made on this podcast so far. We hope that you will check it out and see what we have. I think we're going to have some really great stuff on there.
Most definitely. And if there is something specific, like an inside joke that we made that we don't even remember, please let us know. Like, tweet at us, Instagram at us. How do people do it? I'm a millennial. I'm not a Gen Z.
You can just tag somebody on Twitter.
Yeah, do that. Do that. Let us know if there's something that I should add to our little store on Spring.
Yeah, or you could let us know in the comments.
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
Comments.
Should we make a shirt that says "Let us know in the comments"? Let us know in the comments. Without further ado, let's get into our topic for this week. We're going to be looking at the past year of the Moonflower show in the context of our lives amidst a global panini.
Yeah, global panini.
Yeah, global panini.
It's big enough for everyone to eat.
Yeah.
Whether they like it or not.
Yeah, and all the corvids eating that panini.
Those darn corvids, they're everywhere, flying around.
All 19 of them.
They're airborne. That was a good one, though.
Yes, it was pretty good.
Pretty good.
Yeah, you did a good job.
So yeah, we're talking about our just our lives in general over the past year, which is the birthplace of the Moonflower show, which is within the past year of our lives.
Yes.
It's been a much different year than I think we have experienced before in the past.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is a new experience for everyone involved.
Yes.
It's a hot new experience. Get your tickets now.
Get your tickets to the Corvid Panini.
Oh my goodness. It's been rough, guys. That's
See, I hear that. And then there's also me, like, not really... I don't know. I don't know if any of you out there have had this experience, but, like, I genuinely don't think... I mean, I've been affected by the panini, you know what I mean? But I don't think that it, like, wrecked me. And granted, there's, like, some privilege to that, too. Like, I was worried about getting laid off from my job. I was worried about getting furloughed. But I was able to keep my job. I worked from home for a couple months. I worked from home for about 8 weeks, I think, in total. And then I was back at work.
It was only 8 weeks?
Yeah. I only worked from home until the end of May of 2020. And then we went back because I was in construction. I work in the office, but I'm in construction.
But were we still living together after you went back?
No. We weren't.
Huh. That felt like a much longer period of time. And I'll tell you why. It was like a fever dream. So basically my living situation right now and over the past 2 years is I live in a big old house. I rent a big old house with some of my friends. It is a 7-bedroom, 5-bathroom, 3-story house.
I'm sorry, 5 bathrooms?
Yeah, because 2 of the bedrooms have their own bathrooms.
Which other bathroom has...
The one on the first floor One of the ones on the first floor has their own bathroom too.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes. So we had all those people. Obviously, at the time, we were all students. Pretty much all of us were students, and some of us also had jobs, including myself. Obviously, around like March, everything went virtual. Everything went online, and we were basically in this house 24/7. Not to mention that Winter temporarily moved in to this place because we just wanted to like be together rather than like apart, because there were travel restrictions basically. Like unless you were, unless it was an absolute necessity, you really weren't supposed to leave your house.
Well, no, because here's what happened. I was worried in like late March. I was worried that if we experienced any more restrictions than we already had, that we would go into a full lockdown and I wouldn't be able to leave my house. I also live alone, so like the week before I moved in, I was still at work. A lot of other things had closed down. I literally wrote a letter to the governor asking him to please release some guidance for people in construction because we weren't shutting down.
Yeah.
We just weren't going to shut down.
They really were very late on all that.
Yes. No, they absolutely were. I was working, I think, until March. It was almost the 20th of March of that year. Yeah, and I was getting increasingly nervous. I did not feel at the time that my superiors at work had a plan for what we were going to do with all this. Mm-hmm. I was preparing to work from home. I made a little write-up for myself and for our office, basically saying, here's what we should do if we're forced to shut down. And then it was kind of taken as we're not really going to need this, but thank you. And then 2 days later, we were ordered to shut down, basically.
Yep.
So it was in New York. It was like these increasing restrictions. It was like, okay, school's closed. I don't even remember exactly what happened in what order, but it was like, okay, school's closed. Okay, there's a curfew. Like, okay, now like this and this closed. I was still working, but I'm like, this is not looking good. And based on the response of other countries around the world, I was thinking that we might go into a shelter-in-place order. And even in the U.S., I know there were shelter-in-place orders. Mm-hmm. We never ended up having that here, but I was worried that was what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I live alone. I have Rose. Rose is my cat, but I did not have Rose at that time. I would not be able to handle being in a shelter-in-place order alone in my apartment. That was not going to work for me.
Yeah.
And I was worried that as we faced more and more restrictions, that it would get harder and harder for me to leave and effectively move in with you in the event of a shelter-in-place order.
Yeah, and that would mean that you were just going to be completely isolated.
Exactly. So I don't remember exactly what it was that triggered the decision, but it was, I think, when I think they finally released an order that said, okay, everybody except for essential workers mm-hmm. has to stop working, and that included me at that time. And that was what triggered me to. Well, it didn't trigger me psychologically, but right. It triggered the decision to move in, because at that point that became like the serious enough point when I was like, if there are any more restrictions after this, if we move towards shelter in place, I don't want to get stuck. I don't want to get stuck at home and not be able to move in with you.
Yeah.
I was terrified.
Yeah, it was a scary and stressful time.
Yeah.
Point being, so on top of the 7 people that were already living in this house, Winter was also there, and there were a few other like friends and significant others that were quite often coming over here to be part of our little, like, enclosed circle of people that we were hanging out with and nobody else.
Yeah.
So it was a group of, like, a good 10, 12 people that I saw for, like, several months on end.
Yeah.
And everybody was, like, in this house, like, 24/7. We were, like, working from home. We were taking classes from home. And at first, it was actually, like, not exciting, not, like, fun, but it was, like, it's that same sense of, like, novelty that you have when, I don't know if you ever experienced this, but, like, when a hurricane happens and the power goes out in your house.
Yeah, it's more fun when you're a kid.
Yeah, well, it was like when that happens and all the lights go out, you have no power, and it's like, all right, let's find things to do without power for a little while. We could, like, light some candles, play a board game, read some books, cook on, like, a little portable gas stove, or, like, make something that doesn't require electricity to cook. That kind of novelty. I felt that for a little bit because it's like, okay, I really like the people that I'm living with. I've known them for years, and now I get to, like, spend a little extra time with them, and we can just, like, goof around, play board games and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I was happy to be living with you. I mean, it was actually only a couple of months into our relationship. Mm-hmm. I think we were still a little bit in the honeymoon phase. Although, honestly, there's another story about that for another time. I feel like I almost got cheated out of our honeymoon phase. But, it was early on in our relationship, and I was really into spending time with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, those are all the positives that were going for it. But as is the same as what happens when a hurricane occurs and your power goes out, it's like, it's really fun at first, and then it's like, okay, 24 hours goes by, and then it's like, okay, 48 hours goes by, then it becomes 3 days, 4 days, a week, and it's like, okay, guys, I'm getting a little sick of this, you know? When can I do things again?
Yeah, I get that. I think I was not ever like that. And I think I still am not really like that. There isn't...
Like what?
Like, I don't know, like missing things that I could have done before the pandemic. Because, I mean, there are two things that I missed. One was being able to travel and see my long-distance friends.
Yeah.
But it's not like I get to do that super often anyway. And two, I missed going to the movies. That's pretty much it. Everything else I felt like I was able to do, you know? Like, I could go meet a friend in the park and go for a walk with them and speak to them. Oh. I could spend plenty of time with you, you know?
Yeah.
Honestly, I almost feel, like, obligated. This is kind of controversial, but when talking about the pandemic, I almost feel obligated to say... Oh, sorry. The panini. I'm trying not to say the P word.
The P word.
The other P word. I feel almost obligated when I'm talking about the panini to say, or to provide a caveat that, it did really affect me. You know, it really did. And I don't think that it, like, did as much. Like, there wasn't really a lot that I missed. And I feel like that's a valid experience, you know? And I'm not saying... I also understand that's a very privileged position to have. And it's because I was able to keep my job.
Right.
And keep working. And I wasn't unemployed.
I was unemployed, but I was making more money off of unemployment.
I was so mad.
Okay.
And, okay, anybody who is on unemployment or was on unemployment, like, good for you. Absolutely. Like, you should do what's in your best interest. But I was so mad because this was... I got, like, a good raise last summer that I had to fight for.
Yeah.
Because essentially what happened when after the pandemic, oh, sorry, the panini, after the panini, there were two main office people right before we shut down, and the other person stepped down, and I took over his position. So I was doing my old job and his job, and I got a $1 an hour raise to do two people's jobs.
Yeah.
And in the midst of the panini, in the midst of the panini, I accepted this because it is a small family business, and I understood that, you know, we were just trying to make ends meet, and that this guy had actually done like a really good thing by stepping down. But so I accepted this because we were kind of strapped for cash, but at the same time, this continued even after we had like one of the best summers that we had as a business in what I understood as a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was so upset because I was working really hard on my tiny little computer, doing two jobs with none of the software or like equipment that I needed to do my job well. I was so exhausted.
Right.
You know?
But to respond to what you said about the panini not really having that big of an impact on you, I think I took it a lot harder because I had pretty big plans going into 2020. First of all, I turned 21 in January of 2020.
Yeah.
And then I was like, sweet, I can like go out to bars and stuff. You know, finally, I've been waiting for this because I'm also a year younger than everybody in my graduating class and like all my friends and stuff. So I was always a year younger, and everybody was able to do all that stuff before I was, and I'm like, all right, I get to join now. I'm part of the big boys.
Yeah.
And then a giant panini occurred.
Low giant panini.
But not only that, I had some really exciting plans to like travel more. I was gonna go on this super cool road trip with a couple of my friends to Maryland for this like gaming tournament. And that was gonna be like the first time I really like went with friends on like a really big trip somewhere, just like out on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And like I really haven't gotten to experience much of that. And I had a lot of these plans lined up, and like before before last year, I don't think I really had much of that drive. I think I was more of a homebody. I don't think I really had that much of a drive to explore. And I was like just starting to like develop that drive of like, oh, I can go do things on my own. I can explore, and I really want to like take advantage of that. I'm like in my prime right now. And like just as I was warming up to that idea, it was taken away from me, which made me very, very bitter. Yeah. So the panini's been quite frustrating for me. And I am excited for it to, so the effects of it to subside, so I can resume all that.
Yeah. I do hear that for sure. I think, I mean, there were things in 2020 that I was looking forward to as well.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was going to go to California.
Yeah.
At some point. Like I really wanted to go to California, and I decided that 2020 was going to be the year to do it.
Right.
And that obviously didn't happen. I was supposed to travel to Washington, D.C. for a conference, and I was also supposed to travel to... I think I was supposed to travel for another conference for work as well. But to be completely frank, when those were canceled, I felt a sense of relief.
Yeah, can't relate.
Yeah. I think it's because, well, maybe this is just the way that I am, but I don't get super excited about stuff. Like, maybe I'm doing the wrong stuff. But I don't get super excited. Like, I don't get that feeling like when you were little and going on like a field trip. Like, I don't really feel that feeling anymore. And I'm not like mad about it. But I think that may have, like, the fact that I don't have that range of emotion, I, like, don't have that stuff to, like, get excited about, or the stuff that I do have, it's just, like, I don't feel that way about. I think that may have enabled me to be, like, more resilient. Because I honestly, and this feels weird for me to say, but I feel like I didn't care. And that's not, I didn't care about the psychological aspects of the pandemic as much, I think. I obviously cared because I felt extremely upset that people were getting sick and dying.
Yes.
And I felt extremely disappointed in how it was being handled.
Oh, yeah.
I think this whole thing has disillusioned me completely. Not that I was very illusioned before.
We're getting a little off topic here.
Are we?
I'm trying to make a point here.
Oh, please go ahead.
But as an aside, our personal struggles that we are detailing here today obviously have nothing in comparison to the struggles that others have faced during this pandemic.
Yes, I for one, I think we both were honestly in pretty
the panini,
privileged.
I'm sorry.
Yes, in the panini. I think you and I both were in very privileged positions.
Yes, very.
And I am eternally grateful that we were able to hunker down for a little while.
Yeah.
I am a little salty about how early I had to go back to work and how construction workers did not get priority with a vaccine in New York State. But
teacher's aide,
fine.
I got my vaccine early.
I got lumped in with the rest of New York, and then I realized I was obese, technically. So I went with obesity. That sounds so bad. I was barely... And I've also, been trying to lose weight. This is getting very off topic. But I've been trying to lose weight. And I was really worried because I was, barely obese. And I kept weighing myself. And I was, right on the line of, obesity. And I was like, oh, no, I better bump up the snacks a little bit here before my vaccine. In case they weigh me. But everything went smoothly.
Oh, man. I would hope that they wouldn't have a literal weighing station.
I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah, I mean, it's unprecedented, but
yeah,
that would be pretty mean.
Well, what I did bring with me was a copy of my most recent physical, which had my height and weight, and they could have referenced that. But they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't. I brought all the stuff that they told me to bring with me, and they didn't even glance at it.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that this panini had pretty negative, I don't know, I mean, I'm resilient too, but I think it had negative psychological effects on me because when I get disappointed by something, when I have these negative emotions, or when I get frustrated at things, I do tend to I become more, introverted, I become more... I kind of tend to isolate myself a little bit when I get upset. And I was upset at a lot of things at the time. And then the environment was, oh, I have to self-isolate. Great. I'm just going to lean into that and do absolutely nothing productive. I'm going to do the bare minimum, And I think a lot of people really seized... the extra time that they had during the panini, to really better themselves and take another look at their priorities and stuff. I would not consider myself one of those people.
I would not consider myself a person who really came into that much extra time.
Well, yeah.
During the panini. But I still started...
But it was a change of perspective,
Yeah, I started 2.5 businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy.
Sorry, that
You know,
if that sounded cocky, I apologize.
Just started 2.5 businesses. I didn't really do much this last year.
No, well, what I'm saying is I don't think I had that much extra time. The only time that I gained was from people not really being able to or not being comfortable hanging out, you know? And by hanging out, I mean, like, going to the park with me and sitting in the grass and shouting at each other from 6 feet away. How are you doing? Bad. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, because I went back to work super quick, and I have a bit of a commute. Like, I was back at the 40-hour work week, you know?
Yeah.
And at that, I was working harder because I was doing more than I originally did before the pandemic.
Right.
Because, you know, that's how the business decided to move forward, was by, you know, essentially cutting down on office personnel. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I went back to work for at least like half a year. Because I work at a school and I was working from home. I was doing virtual school. And then I was unemployed for a little while. Or I think maybe I was... I forget what exactly happened, but I think I was considered like not one of the essential staff that had to stay and do virtual school. For the time that they were going to stay virtual, so I was technically laid off with the guarantee that I would be hired back.
Yeah, you were furloughed.
Yeah, it was furloughed. And then I started making more money on unemployment. I was like, great, excellent. I can do absolutely nothing.
I was so jealous. I was so jealous.
But it's like, it's cool, but it's at the same time, I really don't mentally thrive in that environment, you know?
Yeah, well, I do. I was so tired. I was so tired going to work every day.
The grass is always greener on the other side, you know?
I think I would have preferred to be working from home, being on unemployment.
Yeah.
Because I was so exhausted. Like, okay, now that I'm talking about it, I'm realizing that the pandemic definitely did. The panini affected me because I was just tired all the time. I was tired and like bitter, you know, about just like going to work. And what can I say here? I think this is true everywhere in the US. I will just say that not everybody followed the rules.
No.
Not everybody followed the rules.
Not even close.
And I was so... I mean, I tried my best, you know? I tried my best to do that. But I was so exhausted from going to work and trying my best and following the rules. I was upset how quickly we were asked back because I was working in an office. Yeah. I was working in an office. And because my industry was construction, I went back sooner than every other office worker that I knew.
Yeah.
You know?
Because you were technically
Because I was technically in construction. Granted, it's also a lot easier for me to do my job in person and not remote. Mostly because I have a dinky little laptop that gets upset if you ask it to do too much.
Don't say that too loudly. We're recording on the laptop right now.
That's true. Actually, let me check on that real quick. You're doing great, little laptop. You're doing great. But I was just so exhausted. I was so tired going into work every day and wearing my mask and seeing other people in the world not wearing their masks and not being safe, not following the rules. And I'm like, you know, this is nothing against people who were on unemployment or who even still are. But I was like, you know, I could just be like, I'm not comfortable working here because, like, you know, of the panini and go on unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't because I care about my job and I do enjoy it. But I was so tired of it, you know? I was so tired. I would have jumped at the opportunity. To have really some time off. And that's the other thing. I never really had time off because I was working from home.
Yeah.
It was just a different, more stressful more loud and chaotic work environment. And also I wore pajamas sometimes. Actually, you know what? I didn't even do that. Every day during the panini, I got up and I put on a different set of clothes in the morning. And I made the bed. And that was what separated the day from sleeping for me.
Well,
I wore very comfortable clothes during the day. I stopped wearing a bra.
No, that's what worked for you.
Yeah, but changing the clothes, you know, even if it's not like work clothes,
Yeah.
like still really helped me. Mm-hmm. I stayed on a pretty good schedule, I think.
Yeah. What was I even gonna say?
Sorry, did I completely just derail everything from the point you were trying to make like 20 minutes ago?
Maybe. But
I'm so sorry.
Point is,
My bad.
I wasn't having a great time, even though I kind of was. On the surface level, I was having a great time. I also missed my family a lot, I think, during that time, because you know, you really weren't supposed to go do any unnecessary travel. I like just last month I got to see some family members that I haven't seen since before the panini.
Yeah.
That I would usually see on a more frequent basis. Mm-hmm. So there was that. I missed all of this when you got back into your own place, and started working back in person. I think it was around that time when we started, when we recorded the first episode of the
Moonflower. It was May 25th. I forgot what date I said in the beginning of this, but I think it was May 25th. It was Memorial Day of 2020 that we recorded the first Moonflower Show episode. And at the time, it wasn't even the Moonflower Show.
Yep, it was just... We'd had this idea for a while, actually, of like... Excuse me. We'd had this idea of making this little podcast episode just to... excuse me. Just to see what it would be like. Because, you know, we fancy ourselves a couple of cards. A couple of silly individuals.
Yes.
That like the sounds of our own voices. And we figured that we could probably do a pretty good job of it if we wanted to make a podcast. And we played around with the idea for a little while. We were like, hey, do you want to do this? Yeah, not yet. We don't have a good idea. And then Memorial Day came around and we were like, hey, let's just do it.
Yeah. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah. We made the decision that day, I think. And we were like, want to just do it now. So I think we were just like, we don't know what to talk about. Let's just come up with a couple of random questions and ask each other a couple of random questions, interview style, and see how it turns out.
Yeah, and we thought it turned out really well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we listened to it right away. While we were like making dinner and stuff. Mm-hmm. And we were like, wow, this is pretty good. Yeah, not to toot our own horn. But we were happy with it. Yeah. It was recorded on my like shitty little microphone that I had. Yeah. And then a couple of months passed. We went on our... We took a camping trip before... We talked about this on the camping episode. That was 2 episodes ago. Yeah. We went up to Lake George. Yeah, well, we did the other camping trip before that. And then towards the beginning of the summer... to Pennsylvania. Mm-hmm. And then... Well, that was like the first... I just want to mention that because that was like the first time I had like gotten out of the house, really. Oh, yeah. Since like the beginning of the panini. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was a good trip. That was a good trip. And camping was like... Oh my gosh. And trying to get a campsite in New York last summer... Oh, yeah. Was a nightmare. That was really... It's really funny. That's why we went to Pennsylvania. It's really funny because I tried to book like a couple weeks in advance a campsite. And I was like, all right, let's do this. I'm sure there's going to be at least something available. Yeah, we were willing to go anywhere. Literally, in the entire state of New York, I could not find a single campsite that fit within our schedule. And
And I was like, oh, I was even willing to be like, okay, let's stay one night at this campsite and then the next night at this campsite.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then the website was literally like, no, there's a 2-night minimum, even though there were like vacant nights.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, crap. What do I do now? But Binghamton, where we live, is very close to the border of Pennsylvania. So I was like, just for funsies, let me look at the Pennsylvania state parks and their camping availability. And it was like, oh, literally whatever campsite you want, whichever weekend.
Wide open.
It was wide open.
And you know why I think that is because in New York State, I mean, in the panini, one of the flavor centers in that panini was in New York City. There was a hot flavor pocket in our state. And as a result of that, New York State, even the parts that weren't hit as bad with the flavor, the less flavorful parts, a little more bland, were affected by very strict regulations, And I think Pennsylvania never really saw that. It was always New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and I think Massachusetts were very strict. That whole area was very strict. But Pennsylvania was not as stringent, I think. I could be wrong. Please fact check me if I'm wrong. But that was the impression that I got. Mm-hmm. And so I think there was this pent-up demand in New York State for people to, get out of their house,
Yes.
And camping was one of the only, quote-unquote safe activities last summer.
Yep.
And I think with Pennsylvania, there wasn't as much of that pent-up demand because I don't think there were as harsh restrictions statewide,
Right. I'm just surprised not as many people had the idea of going from New York to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
But...
Well, I think people might have considered that and then also thought about, people in New York were generally pretty good about following the guidelines. Not everybody did, but I think we were better than a lot of other places. And I think people were concerned about leaving the state.
Right.
And coming back.
Yeah. I don't think it was against the rules what we did.
No, it wasn't against the rules, but I think people were worried about going too far from home, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that we had to look into it because we were like, should we be worried about traveling across state lines? But I think at that point, it was because New York and Pennsylvania are so linked. It wasn't, you didn't have to quarantine coming back. I have coworkers from Pennsylvania, because we're so close to the border. Mm-hmm. So... yeah, we didn't run into any issues there.
Yeah. So that was a very nice trip because it was the first time I'd really gotten out of the house for a little while. Yeah. And like I said, I love camping. Great mental reset. Then towards the end of the summer, we went up to Lake George, and we listened to the first episode of the Moonflower show that we had recorded again. We were like, hey, want to just... We said this in the camping episode, but we were sitting out by the little fire pit in the backyard. It was a nighttime. It was a really nice night out, and we were like, "Do you want to roast some weenies and listen to that podcast we made?" And
weenies were roasted. And I did have just enough of a signal to download the episode from my Google Drive. Yeah. It took a half hour.
It was great,
but we got it.
And I don't know, something about that night, that time listening to it, inspired us to keep making the show. I don't think it was the Moonflower show until a couple of episodes in.
Yeah, it was pretty early on though, and we started recording pretty regularly even before we started uploading our episodes to Buzzsprout. We literally just had Google Drive links that we were sharing with our friends every couple weeks, and that was the schedule. And then by the time that we got Buzzsprout, by the time we were ready to upload this thing and get it onto streaming platforms, we had a backlog.
Yeah.
And it was we were on the free version for a little while, so we could only upload what was it, an hour of content every month. It was I don't remember exactly what it was, but we had this huge backlog, and we were making content as quickly as we were uploading it.
Yeah.
But then two things happened. We upgraded, So we were able to upload more content. And then also we had to take a hiatus for my top surgery.
Right.
Well, we didn't have to. I wanted to.
I think it was for the best.
I think it was for the best, too. I don't think I would have been able to put my mouth up to the microphone because I was so hunched over.
Yeah.
But yeah, then, since I think February or March, we've been on it looks like a consistent schedule. But we have technically been doing this more or less consistently, like, since September, October.
Yeah.
It just doesn't look like that on the streaming because we didn't start uploading stuff until November. And then there was this huge backlog, so we had to upload, like, a couple episodes at a time,
Yeah. And I was going to say that, like, amidst this whole Panini, like, not being good for me mentally and just, like, being stuck in this pattern of, like, waking up and feeling like I'm doing nothing, it felt so good and so refreshing to, like, make something.
Oh, yeah.
And to be able to, like, share it with friends and, like, get feedback and be like, hey, this is super cool. Mm-hmm. It felt like, I don't know, like the first real thing I had done in a while that, like, meant something. Mm-hmm. And that was a big inspiration to me to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And since then, it's evolved into what you see today.
Yeah, it's evolved, and we're really making this into a little professional project.
Yeah, we're trying to expand. Oh my goodness, we didn't even mention our giveaway.
Oh my gosh, Lynn Seekman.
Congratulations on being the winner of our painting giveaway.
Yes.
That was super fun to do.
Yes, and thank you so much to everybody for participating and supporting us. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are definitely going to do another giveaway at some point in the future. I know we talked about doing giveaways for Patreon exclusive, but I think this is also something that we'd really love to do again.
Yes, and it was also a learning experience because I, for one, have never managed, like, a brand social media account, and that's kind of, like, one of my jobs in this whole project.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the formatting will be exactly the same next time, but either way, I think it was successful to a degree.
Yeah.
We definitely
we got followers. Our goal was to get more followers.
A lot more followers, and hopefully some of you out there listening right now heard about us through our little giveaway. And if that's the case, we're super appreciative.
Yeah, if you heard about us through social media,
if you're
why don't you go ahead and tweet at us what you think we should talk about?
Oh yeah, we're so open to ideas.
Yeah. You were gonna add something else though.
I was just like, if you're a new little moonflower, bud, like little sprout.
Oh yeah, your little bud.
Yeah. If you're a little bud, welcome.
Yes, welcome. Bud is so. Can I talk about the names of our little Patreon levels? I'm really proud of it.
Yeah.
I came up with it. So the lowest level is a bud because you're like a little bud.
But you're also
a bud. Yeah. The middle level, I think, is a bloom.
Yes.
And that's like only like you're starting to bloom. You're blooming.
Uh-huh.
And then the highest level is the blossom, where you are fully opened up and you're participating fully and you're at your most beautiful and supportive.
Yeah.
Not that you're not also beautiful and supportive at the lower levels. I know some people can't contribute as much because of, like, financial stuff. All of you are beautiful and essential to the production of the Moonflower show. Because how are you going to have a Moonflower without every single level of Moonflower? Every single stage of the...
You can't have a blossom without a bud,
You can't have a bloom without a bud.
And you can't have a bud without a bud.
You can't have the inevitable cycle of death without a blossom.
Moving on. What are we talking about?
Yeah, welcome, new people. welcome.
Get used to this. We were talking about Moonflower Show.
We're talking about Moonflower
origins.
Show. What is your favorite part? What is your favorite thing about the Moonflower Show?
Oh, should we talk
over the past year?
Should we say our favorite episodes?
Ooh, let's do it.
Oh my god, I have to pull up the list of episodes. I would have to have it in front of me.
I can pull it up on my phone right now.
Okay. my favorite thing about the Moonflower show? Like, what do you mean? Like,
Yeah, your favorite experience, your favorite part of working on it, your favorite, whatever. But let's also say our favorite episodes.
My favorite
so here
whatever.
is the list. Let's go through it. We should really rename the first episode to Pilot instead of podcast.
Yeah, that might be a good idea. Wait, you want to go through it one by one or just say our favorite episodes?
Up to you. I was thinking we could say
something.
The different ones.
So, like, talk about each one?
No, not talk about it. Just say like...
Okay, so this episode...
Say what they are,
Episode 1, titled, and I quote, Podcast.
There is one comma in there.
Episode 2, Mental Health, Flow States, and Good Food.
That was a good episode.
Episode 3, The Halloween Cast, which was Halloween-themed. Episode 4 was Relationships Part 1. Episode 5 was Relationships Part 2. Episode 6 was Music. Episode 7 was Goals. Episode 8 was Functional Holistic Health for Real People featuring Aspen. Episode 9, Authenticity, Boundaries, Ads, and Content Creation, which we have some spicy takes about the internet and its culture.
And influencer culture.
Yes. Episode 10, You Should Play D&D, featuring the legendary James Jonah Windus. Not to inflate your eagle. Who left this inflatable eagle around here? Not to inflate your ego too much, James.
God damn it, you inflated the eagle again. Okay, James entered our McFreakin' giveaway and entered his name as, because if you participate in the giveaway, there's a section that asks for your name, right? And you write your name. And it's free form. So James took full advantage of this and put his name as His Royal Highness James Jonah Windus the Fourth of the Dickus Islands.
The Dickus Islands, which I don't even know are a real thing. Probably.
It's not real. It's not real. There's no way.
Disqualified. Just kidding. That was a really fun episode.
Yes, it was.
I'm just a nerd and I love all things D&D, but that might have been one of my favorites. Oh god, I love episode 11.
Episode 11, we try and review 9 different fast food French fries.
Now that one was a little bit of out of left field. A little bit of a... What's the word? A deviation from our usual format.
A deviation from the mean. Would you say that it is greater than 3 standard deviations from the... I'm sorry, I'm taking a stats course right now.
My podcast making statistics jokes.
I'm taking a stats course right now. Please don't attack me. It's in my brain cells.
That...
It's an outlier because it's greater than 3 standard deviations
away from...
You need to
stop. You've been stopped.
Because I don't want to.
Wow, yeah, that one took us like a literal entire evening.
It took like 3 hours just to get the French fries.
Yeah.
I think that might be a little higher than what it actually was, but it was several hours to get the French fries.
But by the time we had, from the time we left to get all the French fries to the time we were done recording and cleaning up, I think it was like a good 6-hour investment of our night.
Oh yeah.
Which is a lot longer than we typically spend on the Moonflower show.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that was an experience.
Wasn't it?
And I'm glad we did it. I don't regret anything. Because that's always something that, like... Oh, my dad would talk about doing that sometimes, He'd be like, what if one of these days we just, like, we got a bunch of, like, fast food things, we, like, tried them, compared them, and then we really did it.
Yeah, we really did it, and I don't think I would do it again.
No. I don't think I will ever do anything like that again. It was exhausting.
It was exhausting. It was only fun because I was with you, Colin.
Yes. And
the only thing that I really remember distinctly about that night was how bad the Sonic French fries were.
Yeah.
I still remember...
We spent a good amount of time on that episode talking about how bad Sonic's French fries were, and I don't know if they were just weak that night or something.
It tasted like broccoli.
These were really, really awful French fries. And I'm sorry out there if you're, like, a big Sonic fan. I know that they're, like... Their thing is, like, they have tater tots.
Yeah, tater tots.
And I've had their tater tots. They're good. But the French fries, we got the French fries because we were getting French fries from every place, and we were like, okay, let's keep it consistent as possible. we gotta compare the French fries. They're really, really bad. They're really bad.
Yeah, don't get Sonic French fries.
Shockingly bad.
Get anything else.
Arby's. Arby's was the dark horse of the night.
Yes. Oh my gosh. We shouldn't give too much away. If you want a full summary on our, what is that? On our 9 different fast food French fry adventure, go listen to the episode 11.
Yes.
Yeah.
Episode 12, this was a very good one too. Spirituality.
Spiritually science.
Spiritually science and philosophical hope.
Spirituality, science, philosophy, and hope is episode 12.
Camping Story by the Campfire, that's also one of my favorites.
Yes.
And then Dating with the Goal of Being Real is episode 14.
I know what my favorite episode is.
Really?
Yes.
Which one?
Mine is episode 12, Spirituality, Science, Philosophy, and Hope.
Oh.
Only because at the end of that episode, I got very impassioned and excited about what I was talking about, and I think it was a good episode because let me back up. I think that I'm a person who has like a very powerful passion for life, but I also think that I don't always like have the context, like environment or resources to share that with people.
Yes.
But I think that when I can, I am A, really fun to be around, and B, like pretty inspirational.
Yeah.
To people. Like, I think I can, like, reach people. Like, I think I can, like, reach people on, like, like, their soul level, you know? Mm-hmm. And I really love that piece of myself. But I'm not able to access that often, if that makes sense. And I think I was able to access that at the very end of that episode. So that's my favorite episode, because those moments are so special to me.
Yeah.
I really cherish them when I'm able to access that part of myself.
You had some great moments on that one. As for myself, episode 1 has a special place in my heart. I really think it's pretty great, even though it's kind of basic. I don't think it's my favorite of all of them, but it's... I don't know. We say some really funny things on that episode.
Yes, our first couple episodes, you know, I really like them because we have this cool format going where we asked each other questions.
Yes.
I think that was really conducive to, like, interesting discussion. Mm-hmm. We may even move back to that at some point.
Yeah, and maybe not for every episode, but like for some, maybe if there's a topic that format is sort of like applicable to.
Yes.
So I don't think that's my favorite, but that one's definitely up there for me. Top 3 probably. The D&D one with James. I think that also might be one of my favorites. I love hearing James talk about like moments from his campaign, because not only is he like very creative, he's also a great storyteller and a great just personality, very fun guy to be around. And sharing some moments from our own campaigns. Yes. Was super fun. We got to tell the world about the tragedy of freaking Lionel Ostrom.
Oh, yeah. Did we share that in that episode?
Yeah, we did. The singing pirates.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yep. And Camping Stories by the Campfire. I think I have to say that this is my favorite.
I thought you were going to say that one.
Just the mutual memories that we share and talk about in this episode, and just like, I don't know. Camping for me, I'll say it again, it holds some of my most precious memories. And I don't know, whenever I think about camping and like the memories I've had camping, I just get a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. And I feel like I was really able to spread that feeling to the world with this episode.
Yeah.
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 So I think that's got to be my favorite one. So our 2 favorites are back to back right now, and they're ones we've done relatively recently.
Yeah. Well, I think maybe we're getting better at this.
I think so. Yeah.
I think we are getting better at this.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Let us know in the comments.
Gosh, when you do things more, you get better at them. Who would have known?
Who would have figured that out? Nobody knew that.
But yeah, that's pretty much the story so far when it comes to the Moonflower show.
Yeah, so I want to ask again, what is your favorite part of the Moonflower show? That you, like, a favorite part that you've experienced, something you've done. What's your favorite part of working on it? What have you appreciated about it over the last year? What has it meant to you? Like, you know, how has it affected you in a good way?
Well, I think I already talked about this a little bit, that it helped me out of sort of a dark place, I think, because it felt good to make something after a long time of not feeling like I've made or done anything. It reminded me that I do have valuable things to say, that, you know, it's worth it to share your thoughts, and, you know, just put it out there.
Yeah, definitely. Most definitely.
Sorry, I just turned a light on and it's blinding.
I can't see anything right now. I very much hear that. I think it's meant a similar thing for me.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what would your answer be to that?
Well,
I also love the logo. I love the logos and all the decals.
I made the logo. That was me.
Yeah. I love our sort of brand and our what do you even call it? Our look, our
vibe, our aesthetic.
Our aesthetic. That is the word that I was looking for.
Yes, honestly, I was setting up our store, like our store on Spring. Yesterday it was. Yeah. And I'm like setting up the store. I'm like trying to figure out what looks good, like making sure everything's high res and all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, this one looks really good. And I sent Colin a text that said, like, me setting up our store on Spring, like, oh sweet, these pieces look like pretty good, and like maybe this will turn into like a couple extra bucks for us. Nice. Also me setting up our store on Spring. I am prepared to lose all of my bucks buying this stuff for myself.
Yeah. We may be a little bit self-indulgent.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so your favorite part is that it
I don't know. It encourages me. I am a person who I don't really share much of my inner thoughts and my inner dialogue unless somebody asks me about it, you know?
Yeah. I'm not like that.
I feel like I have a lot to say and a lot of opinions on a lot of things, but I'm not compelled to share them with people unless I'm approached about it. And I like to be approached about it because I like to talk about that stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't always know when it's like, I don't know, when it would be appreciated. And I'm like, I usually keep it to myself if I don't know that somebody's going to appreciate it.
Yeah.
But in a format like podcast, it's like you get to talk about it, and it's nice to talk about it with my great pal Winter. It's wonderful to talk to you, and then also if anybody else wants to listen, the option is there. And I don't know, it's really nice for me. I like it a whole lot.
Yeah, I really like it too. I don't know what my favorite thing about it is, but I have always been told that I have a good voice for radio. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if that's true anymore because my voice has changed a lot since going on testosterone. But I don't know. I've always just like wanted to be on the radio, and I feel like having your own podcast is like the way to make that happen for yourself.
Yeah, the podcast is like the radio talk show of today.
Yeah, it's the future radio. If the future is now.
The future is now, old man. That's a meme.
I think my favorite part of the Moonflower show has been being able to throw myself into learning something new from a like business standpoint too. Like, not to toot my own horn, but I'm a bit of an entrepreneur. I'm not gonna make it out to be like I'm making all these boku bucks with my side hustles. Basically, what's happening right now is I have like 2.5 like sort of businesses that I'm working on. This is one of them. The other one is a like thrift store that I have that was originally supposed to just be like people giving me garbage and me making art out of garbage, and turned into something completely different. And then the third one is like my YouTube channel and some like other like personal like branding stuff that I have in the works, which will probably not come to fruition for a while because I'm starting grad school. But like that's why I say 2.5, because like to me that's like not really a full one yet, because like not only am I like not bringing in any money, but I'm also like not offering anything of value, I feel like, yet. I'm just trying to like put myself out there and like find my voice. So we'll see where that goes. I like want to eventually write a book. I'm getting off topic. Anyway. Yeah. I am a person who really loves to learn new things. I remember my original point. Basically what's happening right now is my thrift store is funding the Moonflower show. So I have like no money coming in, but I'm also not losing any money on what might otherwise be like a really expensive venture, like with like a lot of overhead.
Yep.
But I honestly think that my favorite part of doing all this has been like learning all these new like pieces of producing a podcast. Like we had to figure out how to get a podcast on Spotify, which is more convoluted than it sounds. We had to do all of our own like branding. I mean, I've had some experience doing that before, so that wasn't as much of like a learning thing, but it was still like practice. And just recording and editing and experimenting with what sounds good and experimenting with like branding like within like an audio format, and setting up Patreon and setting up like Spring, and like, you know, what does it look like to collaborate with somebody also on a project? Because usually I go solo like on my like passion projects, but this is like honestly the first one. No, it's not the first one actually. I had a YouTube channel with my best friend from high school before. That project is no longer like active, but that I think was the first project, like first passion project that I did like with somebody else. Or maybe it wasn't. I was also in a band. I feel like that's a passion project with somebody else. Anyway, I'll just say
wow.
This passion project is the first one in a while where I am working with another person as like an equal, and where, you know, definitely the first one where that person is my partner, like my romantic partner, of course. And I like it. I like that a lot. I love working with you. And he just winked at me. He just winked at me.
Are you telling on me?
Yes, I'm telling on you.
Finish your thought.
I said I love working with you.
Oh, wait.
And
what was that? I couldn't hear you.
I love working with you. I think that's by far...
Chris Winter loves working with me.
That's my favorite part of the Moonflower show.
That's really sweet.
Yeah. Among other things. Like, I think in general, I've loved the learning curve of it, but I think my favorite piece of that learning curve has been working with you.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know.
I think that is all we had to talk about. Now you're winking at me.
Yeah.
But it's not very subtle. It's not subtle.
No, Colin did it a lot cuter. I'm not good at winking. When I wink, my one half of my face moves.
Got something in your eye there?
You know what? It's actually more of like a full body movement, too. Anyway, I think that does just about wrap it up for tonight.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you want to add before we conclude?
No.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for listening, dear Moonflower. If you enjoyed this episode, we would love it if you would subscribe to or follow this podcast wherever you're listening. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts and are feeling especially generous, we would deeply appreciate it if you left us a review. And if you are listening on YouTube, don't forget to drop a like and a comment below. In fact, why don't you just let us know in the comments? Just anything.
Please let us know something.
Never gonna stop beating that dead horse.
Nope.
You can follow us on Twitter.
Probably not even funny. Like, no, probably nobody thinks that.
Like,
one's
nobody
funny
thinks.
except
I'm gonna
us.
like put it on a shirt, like get it for myself, and like be the only person in the world who like ever wears it. It's an inside joke with just me.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you would rather not let us know in the comments, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Moonflower Show.
And you can also join our Discord using the link in the episode description. And for our especially devoted Moonflowers, you can join our growing Patreon community at patreon.com/moonflowershow for early access to episodes. Did we mention that earlier? I don't think we mentioned that in the intro.
No.
That there was early access to the episodes. If that's for the Bud level, right?
Yes, it is for the Bud level.
For the $2 Bud level.
Yes.
But you get early access to episodes, access to our bi-monthly live Q&A sessions, discounts on merchandise, automatic entry into bi-weekly giveaways, and more.
And obviously all of this is brand new. We just launched our Patreon, so if you want to join, you should definitely do so now, because I'm going to be making the first 20 Moonflowers, those beautiful Moonflower friendship bracelets.
Mm-hmm. We release new episodes every other Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so check back often. Until then, we hope you have a good night, good day, or whatever is in front of you right now. Love you very much, Moonflowers. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.